Okay, get started here. Hey folks, welcome. I am going to double check we're live here. Everything's working out. Perfect. Now I have the preview of the new Microsoft Teams meeting experience in my demo tenant. So this is a tenant where I am the owner or organizer of meetings. I can play around with the settings and I can take a look at a lot of the types of things that will be rolling out here later to all users of Microsoft Teams. So if you have any questions, feel free to toss them into the chat. Hopefully I'll see that in StreamYard. So I'm doing kind of the typical Inception thing here. I'm using StreamYard to broadcast and sending this to LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as my YouTube channel. And so on any of those three platforms, you can find me. On YouTube, I'm at DREY, D-R-E-Y, MSFT. On Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm still Dre, S-T-I-L-L-D-R-E-Y. And so the first thing that I had to do was I got a pop-up in Microsoft Teams when I reloaded the client, and that client message was as follows. Turn on the redesigned meeting controls now, customize them in your next meeting. And it says you can go ahead and drag and drop things and right click to reset a control. And I clicked on try it because I've been waiting for this for quite a while. And this allowed me to go ahead and not only go into settings to take a look at the new meeting controls on or off, so I could turn them off if I chose to compare something to the new meeting controls. But now that I'm in a real live environment, I can do things like Control Plus, make those controls bigger at the top so it's easier, hopefully, for you to see them. I'm 180% zoomed in. And so I can see the new React in the center with the raise hand under React as opposed to being separate from the other reactions. The React menu is essentially a consolidation of the hand raise and the reaction menu. Then I have chat and I have people. I'm the only one in this meeting. I'm the organizer. I have my chat pane, but I'm the only one in this meeting. I had added in a custom stream. That's where I can configure something like to go live on LinkedIn from Teams as opposed to having to use something like StreamYard. So under the more options, that's where I find custom streaming. And like we had talked about before, I can drag it to more so that it's located under more, or I can drag items out of more and put them back on my meeting controls. So they're pinned essentially, and I can right click to unpin and I can move them into different orders or drag and drop them into different orders. So if there's things that I'm using all the time in a meeting, other things that I'm not using all the time, like the people, I'm the only one in the meeting, so that becomes less important. So does chat in this case, because I'm not really chatting with myself. So I can drag those and get rid of the controls that I'm not using as often and keep the controls that I am using often in this meeting. So because I have a Copilot license, I also have the Copilot capability with transcription, which is needed for Copilot to work. Copilot, starting maybe 5 minutes after we've gone live here, is like going live 5 minutes later with that. I'm getting a real weird overlay here. It looks like it was just my phone. So we'll go ahead and start the transcription. Everybody's speaking English in this meeting so far, and Copilot understands other languages. It understands translation. So if I were speaking Spanish, I could have that translated to English. And if I'm a Spanish speaker and somebody's speaking in English, I could have that translation and caption in Spanish so that I can understand it. No comprehendo means I do not understand. And that would be the first thing I've said in Spanish in this meeting. So we have these new controls, including the leave button, providing us a, are you sure you want to leave confirmation, but it's been separated from the share icon, which was probably my biggest feedback in Microsoft Teams. My other meeting window feedback, which appeared at some point without my noticing it, was the zoom function. So if I'm just trying to use all of my screen real estate, maybe 100% is perfectly fine for this meeting. I can still see my people. If I've got a bunch of people in the meeting, I could go ahead and make this smaller if I've got a meeting with a ton of people in the meeting. So making this smaller gives me more screen real estate for my video and potentially for somebody sharing content if I weren't the organizer and the person sharing my screen. And that indication of the zoom level on the meeting window is new in more recent builds of Teams. What you could do was use the Control minus and Control plus and Control 0 to reset. And those keyboard shortcuts are well known for Teams itself, but didn't necessarily bring it to your attention in the meeting window. So those are fairly new. So Control plus lets me make everything bigger so that it's easier for you to see what we're talking about, which is the new meeting experience. We'll go to 200% zoomed in. So everything at that top is really big and in your face. So the Copilot capabilities show up. Let me do one other change to my StreamYard feed here. Let's put my little video down below. The way that I've got two cameras and two virtual backgrounds working is, again, I'm using StreamYard with the MVP and the RD, the regional director backgrounds. And then in the Microsoft Teams meeting, I'm using the camera with another virtual background. So it looks like the avatars are there. If I wanted to turn on avatars and use an avatar instead of my video, this avatar functionality is still available in Teams. So that turns off my video and loads the avatar to represent me. And now I have an avatar instead, and I have Copilot available, and I have things like recap because we're not recording the meeting, but I am providing a transcript of the meeting. So Copilot can do things like remind me what's happened since I turned it on. I'll remind you, I turned it on about 5 minutes after the beginning of this meeting or the beginning of this broadcast on StreamYard out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So if I said, where is this meeting being streamed. We can see if Copilot can get me the answer from the transcript. And Dan said, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And the source is the meeting transcript. So that is an example. Because I am the the organizer of this meeting, I also have the new rooms capability. So breakout rooms, if I were hosting this meeting for several different people, I could choose how many breakout rooms I want, automatically assign those, manually assign those, let people choose, or fairly new, import from CSV. The CSV needs to have the email account and the room name that you want created and people to put in. And if they are meeting organizers, co-organizers, or presenters, you can actually pre-populate them into those separate meetings. And then the meeting rooms can be created ahead of time as opposed to when you're in the meeting. So that is a fairly new breakout rooms functionality. So we've looked at Copilot, we've looked at rooms, we've talked about the React changes with the raise hand under here. If I'm using raise hand a lot, each individual in the meeting with the new meeting controls can decide if raise hand is outside of the React menu or part of the React menu. And then we can also decide if reactions in this meeting are beneficial to have pinned at the top. If they're not pinned at the top, they collapse or hide under the More menu. So I get my join info, I get my settings for the meeting, I get my audio and video settings. So if I were to pin my video settings, maybe I'm switching between avatars and live video. My avatar reactions are here, so they'd be quicker to bring up ASL me or ASL this or ASL yes. So we've got all these avatar reactions besides the 5 reactions that are typical. And let's try something new. Let's do a pin this one to our reactions. Then we'll see if we've got that new reaction here. So we can unpin one and pin another one. So is there a way to unpin? Pin. Doesn't look like I can drag these additional avatar reactions out of the dialog box, but the video effects could allow me to change my virtual background. Looks like this is the only one that I have that is custom right now. So I could add new, go to my PC, grab a decal background. I think that shows up at the very bottom. Then apply and turn on my video. So if that were to take effect, there we go. We see the DeKalb winged deer and we see my video. And again, this may be backwards because I'm looking at my video from a standpoint of my aspect. If I mirror my video, I see it corrected, reversed, so that DeKalb is readable by me. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them in. David, thanks. The avatar was just whatever I set up quite a while ago, and just shaved my head somewhat and picked some glasses. But I didn't try to make that look exactly like me or anything. And Vicky, welcome. Thanks for joining. We've got the video effects. The video effects include the backgrounds, the virtual backgrounds. So for changing these for different uses, like the Chicago Bean, which is right down the road from where I am in Chicago, Illinois, I could put this as my virtual background, or I could trek about 1.5 miles, which I'll do to catch the train tonight. And hopefully I'll figure out if this meeting experience follows me to other computers. So while we are live here, I'm going to go ahead and log into another computer. And I'm going to see if the meeting experience follows me to that other computer or not. This is a question that I had wondered, like, how does this affect the meetings that I might attend from another computer? So we're going to go to my tenant. I believe I read that this would be based on the computer settings at this point and not brought down automatically to another computer. So I'm going to go ahead and check my version of Microsoft Teams here. We're going to go here to About Teams, and we're going to look at my version. And I'm using a different version on one computer versus the other. And so I would assume that other version would control whether I get the new meeting experience or not. So I'm going to confirm that here. Yep. So it looks like because I have a newer meeting experience on one computer versus another, I'm getting it on one computer logged into the same tenant, and I'm not getting it on the other computer logged into this same exact tenant. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can pull down the Teams client again and see if that's what's maybe updated on the computer I'm presenting from and not updated on my other computer. So we'll let that happen while I chit chat with all of you on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So pretty neat experiences so far. Works pretty well, pretty much as advertised. Things like the transcript and the recording can be controlled. They hide under the more by default, but if I were maybe turning on and off recording quite a bit in a meeting for different sections, carve up different meeting recordings, I could drag that out so that it's easily accessible from the meeting controls and not hidden under more. And like we talked about, people and chat were here by default. I can either drag and drop or right click and pin those icons that I'm using often. And the meeting controls would look very similar to this. Or I also have a reset meeting controls choice, which puts everything back to the defaults. So if I've gotten myself way down in the weeds of customizing things and maybe somebody else just wants the experience, or I want the default experience so that I can maybe document it for other people at work, whatever. This would be one way to do so, is to just reset the meeting controls so that they show up the way they would by default. So the meeting rooms, breakout rooms, hide under here. The timer hides under here. Notes, RTT. Custom streaming isn't there by default. That's where I went to more apps and agents. I also added in forms, I believe, for this meeting. And I could add in polls. So if I add in polls, it shows up. And if I add in something else here, let's see if I can add in the PTZ camera controls. So I have polls, PTZ camera. There was some mention of only 2 things being able to be pinned. Looks like captions, PTZ camera, and polls are all pinned. So I believe that policy is going to change slightly, allowing me to pin more than 2 items and probably up to the capacity of the new meeting experience. So if I'm zoomed in 200%, I have less real estate until the meeting controls start approaching the leave. However, the share icon is separated from my leave button, and the leave button can be changed so that you don't accidentally click leave or hover over it and tap and then you're out of the meeting. There's a way to turn on are you sure you want to leave the meeting before you leave the meeting. So I don't have any PTZ cameras. I could drag that into the more menu, and then it goes down here just like custom streaming did. Same thing with closed captions and polls, or I can go ahead and reset my meeting controls. The other meeting items, the polls, the custom streaming, and the PTZ camera are still there. They're just not on the ribbon or the top of my meeting controls by default. Okay, the Teams client is loading on my other computer. I just downloaded it from Microsoft. We're going to let it load up, and we're going to see if I get the meeting controls message from this other computer. And I don't see it by default. And taking a look at if I'm using the same settings here. Yep, looks like I'm using the same settings. And on this other computer, I do not have the message about the new meeting experience yet. So I haven't exactly figured out how they're pushing this down. I'm still on an older build. Let's see if we can force it through the developer tools. Somehow I got this early access. That's through policy in Microsoft Teams admin. I have that at work. I have that in this tenant, but I got the new meeting controls likely through this build number of Microsoft Teams. So I'm switching to yet another set of options that I have because I'm in the developer version of Teams. And I'm going to see if that may give me an update to the versioning that I have. Got access through public preview. Take a look at app version and available. Yep, it's a different version number. But I'm using this, or no, I'm not using this account. I thought I was. Let's go ahead and switch to the same account here. And then let's see if that doesn't report a different version. Nope. No new meeting experience. I'm assuming that's because of the version of the client. And we're going to exit out of Teams, and we're going to double click on the setup again and see if it'll go in as this account as opposed to the other account that I have access to. So regardless, we've got the capabilities of the new Microsoft Teams meeting experience loaded up. We have the ability to set these meetings up and invite others to them. So theoretically, should be able to go into the people icon. And if I had settings set up to allow myself to invite my other accounts, I should be able to go into a meeting with another account. Because this is now on a tenant that I have access to, I should be able to set up a meeting with various folks at work and actually show them the new meeting controls and the full experience, where I have the ability to share my windows and also share things like Copilot or breakout rooms or other features that require full access, including, this should be working now, the content. This is interesting. So it looks like they are not rolling out the new share controls just yet. And we did hear or read about that change as well. But you can see I have a number of PowerPoint lives, and I'm just not getting that new share experience here just yet. So I can either share my screen if I have multiple screens, my windows. What they're planning to do is give you a additional step so that if I'm sharing maybe a PowerPoint, I would see a confirmation before it just goes ahead and shares the PowerPoint in the new meeting or new share experience. So it looks like the share experience in what I got to this tenant is the old share experience. I've been playing around with the new share experience, but I haven't had a OneDrive, so I haven't been able to see what it looks like for PowerPoint Live or Excel Live files. So theoretically, once I get the new share experience on this computer as well, I would see that in addition to what I'm already seeing from a meetings perspective. If you have questions, folks, I usually call these an Ask Me Anything because I am happy to answer questions. My friend David from Microsoft is here. And there's my Teams app launching. Let's see if on my secondary computer I'm getting the updated version of Teams. The app, if I get the updated version of Teams, I'm assuming that would mean that I have the new meeting experience. And then in some cases, what I think happens is it may be the Teams app version that controls whether you have the new meeting experience, yes or no. And if that's the case, it should mean that I can do it at work as well as in this other tenant. There's a lot of things from a standpoint of how Microsoft manages and rolls these things out that are somewhat still of a mystery. So with the developer version, I can control essentially like what version of the software I'm getting down to a computer. And in controlling that, sometimes that's the other deciding factor about how Teams behaves or how Teams interacts locally. I'm going to take a look here. As soon as Teams starts responding to its system tray icon, still waiting for that to load. But looks like old sharing experience, but new centered controls experience. So either Microsoft's gotten enough feedback about the sharing experience and the new capabilities and scenarios that they've decided to hold back on that a little bit, or the way it's coming down in builds is separated. So this is always interesting to take a look at how Microsoft in the build process actually kind of rolls out or looks. So I have it on this computer now. The benefit of having it on this computer is I can see the record button, which I hadn't seen before, the ability to add other things to my meetings, the breakout rooms functionality, and the Copilot functionality. So I gave you an example of Copilot and asking, where is this meeting being streamed? I got the answer from Copilot in the transcript that we are on LinkedIn Live, Facebook, and YouTube, which is true. What are a couple questions that I have asked during this meeting? Now this is using a transcript. Copilot is going out to get the answers. Where is this meeting being streamed? Whether the new Teams meeting experience follows you to another computer. So far it does not. The client version has not updated on that other computer, and the settings for the new experience have not followed me to a new computer. The new computer has the dev build of Teams. It has the early preview enabled, so early access through public preview checked. And some of those things are the reason that I'm doing these tests, is to figure out where does the new meeting experience come. When I know I have it, I get this message. If I hit Control Plus in PowerPoint, I can zoom in on my slide. So this is the greeting that I had once I received the redesigned meeting controls. So I get a message, says turn on the redesigned meeting controls now. This was immediately when I set up Teams, and I then have the ability to play around with these. I can also go into settings, and I can turn off the new meeting experience. So the same place that I have the option to control the meeting settings to confirm whether I leave a meeting. I turned this on because I figured maybe that would jumpstart the new meeting controls right above it. And they didn't necessarily jumpstart it, but they showed up. So on all of my computers now, I'm using the new ask me to confirm whether I leave a meeting. I figured that new setting might be an indication that, hey, I want some of these new experiences quickly. And this evening, I got the last piece that I've been waiting for, and that is the full experience with Copilot, with an organizer license, with breakout rooms, etc., in the meeting. So I can see kind of everything that Microsoft is working on at this point in the meeting experience. I'm going to tap over to StreamYard here. We'll take a look at if there are comments. We've got the comment from my friend David, who says the avatar does not look like you. And David, that is true. I did not go into a lot of design work to make the avatar appear like I do. I just went in to turn it on so that when I want to play around with it, I have the avatars under my video options, which hides under settings, video effects and settings, and avatars. So the avatar, you can have up to 3, I believe. Avatar turns off my video, turns on the avatar. The avatar should go out to LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And so you see my video in the in the StreamYard videos because I'm using StreamYard with one video camera. And then in Microsoft Teams right now, I'm just using the avatar functionality. Before I was using a different camera. So when I click on the right of the camera, turning off avatars gives me the capability of choosing the two cameras that are configured on this computer. So that's a little explanation if you're wondering, why am I seeing Dan's video and Dan's avatar? Because I'm hosting this in StreamYard, and then I'm using Microsoft Teams to show you the new meeting controls. And we've been going for about 50 minutes so far in this meeting. Happy to test this, happy to share it with everybody. That is one of the benefits of being a Microsoft MVP, or most valuable professional. A lot of times as MVPs, Microsoft gives us early access. They give us feedback opportunities to tell them, hey, I love this feature. Hey, have you thought about this or the implications of that? One of the implications that we wanted to test was meeting room configuration and functionality if the share button changes behaviors. We kind of know the caveats and the lessons learned from the share in Microsoft Teams in our meeting rooms. If the share experience changes, a lot of that would be something we want to test again. So the share experience, at least in this instance, looks very, very similar to what it looked like before. And in my other demo environment, the share experience was the new experience. So I can show you some of those screenshots here that I've taken to capture what it looks like with 3 screens. And I basically get a preview or a large preview on the far right before it actually shares the screen or the window, the application window. So those are some of the differences that I would see. The other difference that I have seen is if I do PowerPoint Live, typically what happens if I'm using Teams to go to LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't understand PowerPoint Live versus regular screen sharing of PowerPoint or screen sharing of a screen. PowerPoint Live is working here because I'm sharing from StreamYard everything that's on my screen, and then what's on my screen right now is PowerPoint Live. So the Microsoft MVP award categories, the areas that you are basically awarded in making significant contributions to, include developer technologies just in general. So if I'm a developer, I can get awarded for doing things in the community above and beyond my day job in developer technologies. Microsoft 365 is one of the 2 categories that I am awarded in. Business applications, Dynamics 365 is another area. Data platform is a award category. Microsoft Azure is an award category. Internet of Things, or IoT, is an award category. Windows and devices is the other award category that I am now awarded in. I am a Microsoft 365 Copilot MVP, and I'm a dual MVP because I'm also in Microsoft Surface as a category. Security is a category. Cloud and data center management is a category. So if I'm doing a lot with servers or cloud management, Microsoft Foundry is a category, and Windows development are all high levels with all sorts of specific technology areas below them. So PowerPoint Live works just fine. The sharing experience looks unchanged. The layouts available to me look like those are based on what I'm sharing, whether it's a window or a screen. So if I share my new Teams experience, this application window is now being shared. And I can see at the top the different options on my computer, but I can't see these on the live stream because this overlay from Teams is not displayed through StreamYard. Turn back on my video camera. My video camera has the virtual background of the bean. The virtual backgrounds hide under settings, video and effects. I can pin this so it's always up here at the top and easily accessible for me to maybe switch between the DeKalb doing ear of corn and the bean outside the Microsoft office in Chicago, Illinois, right outside Millennium Park. So with that, folks, we've been going for 55 minutes live, taking a look at the new meeting experience, looking at things like the React having the raise hand function under it. The raise hand can be moved. The other reactions look like they're just stuck under React, but I can also unpin React if all I'm wanting to do is have people raise their hands in meetings, maybe to call on people and keep track of who's next. I can add additional apps and agents. It doesn't look like I'm limited to 2 at this point with the preview, and it doesn't look like I'm limited to pinning only 2 things. So if I wanted to pin quite a few different things, I can do so. And then under the 3 dots in the meeting window, I now have the reminder that I can zoom in or out of those centered meeting controls. And with that, folks, I think we've ended the things that I've noticed about the new meeting experience. So we can go ahead and close Microsoft Teams, say I am ready to leave the Teams meeting, and then back in the Teams application, I can toggle the new meeting controls on or off, as well as confirm when I'm in a meeting and that I want to leave. And now that these have rolled out to this tenant, I would assume it's just a matter of time till they roll out to the other tenants that I use this same account from. And once we get to that point, I can do some further testing, some documentation, and then we can control the new meeting experience and give this to some of our early testers and provide Microsoft some feedback. So with that, folks, I go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Now in the StreamYard meeting, I'm just sharing my virtual background of the MVP wall at one of the summits. Hey, Alejandro. ¿Cómo está? Mi amigo Alejandro. Visitamos, or visita, él visita conmigo. Y español, no practicar. Practico a little. I'm doing a little bit of practicing, Alejandro, so thanks for joining. I'm not sure if Alejandro, as an MVP, has the new meeting experience yet or not, but that's what we took a look at here. So my friend Alejandro and I met at the MVP Summit in Redmond, Washington, and he is joining us from Argentina this evening. That's awesome. I'll share it real quick with you. My friend, just in case you haven't seen the new Teams meeting interface. since you've joined us here. We get centered controls. We get the test mic and speaker. That's new in the Teams environment. And the centered meeting experience looks like it keeps track of what I have pinned. So I have the hand raise, Copilot, record button, rooms, video effects. If I go back to right click on this, I can reset the meeting controls. This sets them back to the way they're going to default in Microsoft Teams meetings once you have the new meeting experience. And the share experience, at least at this point, looks like it's the typical share experience that we get with Microsoft Teams. So they've decoupled the new share experience from the new meeting controls experience. I would guess that's based on feedback, maybe some technical issues a customer or set of partners came up with or documented. Microsoft does a technology adoption program. Those customers get these things even earlier than the public preview. The public preview is next. That's a step I'm in. So I have this client computer set up for under settings, main Teams window, about Teams. I have it set up for the early access through targeted release. I got a build that includes the message for do you want to test the new Teams experience? The first time upon loading that new client version, I got a message, turn on the redesigned meeting controls now, and then you can customize them in your next meeting. And I said, try it. And that flipped on the experience. And then I can flip it off if I had issues or if I want to compare and contrast it from the current meeting experience. So pretty cool settings that I have available to me. So my friend, that is the new meeting experience that I've noticed so far. Thank you. Yes. Mi familia en España está, I think S is the correct verb. Muy felicitaciones. La World Cup in España. Dos times meses. Or vez. Otra vez is another one. So dos veces. Mi español, un poquito español. But it's great to see you here. Thanks for joining, David. Thanks for joining us from Chicago. David's my friend from the Microsoft Office Local. We play pickleball in Chicago. I support his user group, which is the Chicago Cloud Computing Meetup. And he has been a friend for a very long time. So I will see him this weekend. We are having a celebration of life for my fiance's grandma. Mama passed away about a week and a half ago. So this is going to be a somber Friday for me. And several family members and folks that are close to the family will be joining us in celebrating Mama's life. Mama's the second family member that I met of Charity's. When I started dating Charity, I should say, when I started dating her, when we met, I didn't meet Actually, I met one family member before we started dating. One of her cousins was helping with photography, and there may have been other family members that I met before we started dating. But once we started dating, um, family members were pretty quick to make appearances or to meet me. And Mama, being a matriarch of the family, was one of the first people I met. Um, and she's just a whirlwind of energy and will be remembered fondly by many of us that have had an opportunity to know her over the years. So that's what's happening in mi familia este semana, this week. And buenos tardes, buenas noches. It's evening here in the United States. I'm assuming it's evening in Argentina as well. Not sure if we're on the same time zone, but it should be evening there as well. Yes, I will see you in Redmond next year for certain. I know there are several MVPs that are new to the program, so we will probably see all sorts of new first time MVPs next March. And that's going to be a very fun reunion of sorts. Every year, it's always fun to see who has become an MVP, who continues to attend the summit. I have one coworker from McDonald's that will likely attend next year. I attended with Neil Spellings, who's a new MVP, and a 30-year Microsoft MVP. Hal Hostetler attended, and we shared a condo with another first-time MVP. So there were two that were brand new, me somewhere in the middle. I've just hit my 5-year renewal, and then Hal, who just hit his 30-year as an MVP, 30th year as a Microsoft Most Valuable Professional. So my background is one of the walls at one of our conferences. And with that, folks, we've been going for just under an hour on StreamYard. So I'm going to go ahead and end live here. Thanks for being with me. I'll catch you around next time.